That was a fantastic session with Abra Papa. And like I mentioned, all of those resources that Abra mentioned and her program will be available on our replay page. So next up, we're going to welcome Liz Abel to the stage. So Liz is a licensed nutritionist specializing in women's health and behavior change. Liz helps women repair their relationship with food, settle their nervous systems, and support hormonal shifts. Liz is co-founder of Nested Health Coaching, which provides trauma-informed coaching. This 12-week program teaches clinicians how to unlock a new level of connection with their clients and build a more rewarding and sustainable practice with less burnout. In addition, Liz runs the day-to-day operations of 2 other business units, Nutrition Hive, which provides medical nutrition therapy across the US, and Clinicians Incubator, which provides supervision for nutrition graduates earning their clinical hours. This session is just going to be a fireside chat, a little bit more casual with Liz and myself, and we're going to be talking about overcoming challenges in team practice management. Liz is just getting settled in. That's perfect. Awesome timing. I love when we're just spot on. Welcome, Liz. Can you hear me? And you'll just have to unmute yourself. On the bottom screen, you'll see a mic, and then you can click the mic, and it should unmute right away. Yeah, take your time. While Liz is setting up her microphone, I'll just say I am the biggest fan of Nutrition Hive, Clinicians Incubator, and Nested Health Coaching. We've worked with Liz's team for many years, and they just do really awesome stuff with practitioners and also with clients. And so I'm really excited to have Liz here today. And Liz is just getting that set up. No worries, Liz. We will hold on as you get that. Would it be an event, a virtual event, if there wasn't some sort of tech trouble? Every event we have, either on our end, the speaker's end, always happens. And we'll try to also get you unmuted, Liz, on our end. We'll see if we can do that. Yeah, Denise says so true. Camila, yeah. No way of unmuting, Liz? Is there coming off? Let's see if we can do it on our end too. All right, let's see if you can enter. Oh, there you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, let me just close this other one. Still good?
Yes, perfect.
Thanks everyone for your patience. I'm so sorry about that.
Not at all. Like I was saying, that makes the fun of it. It's so human for us to come on here and just as part of our chat try to figure out those tech struggles, and now we get to have you here. So thank you so much, Liz, for being here with us today. I'm so excited to have this chat. I want to kick us off by I was just saying that I'm a huge fan of Nutrition Hive, Clinicians Incubator, and Nested Health Coaching, but I'd love if you could start this chat by sharing more about your current team structure in each of these organizations you work with or founded.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Yes, our team structure across the 3 business units is similar in that whether we have candidates seeking their CNS certification, or we have health coaching folks searching that certification, or we have clients over in Nutrition Hive seeking medical nutrition therapy, they're all clients to us. And then we have different practitioners. And so we have different Practice Better team accounts for our Nutrition Hive business, which provides medical nutrition therapy. And so the practitioners have their accounts there. And then we have a separate group of people who run the faculty for both our Nested Health Coaching and our Clinicians Incubator program. And so they are team members on our other Practice Better team account.
Wow, that's a lot of people in there. How many team members do you have on each?
I would say across all of the business units, we probably have like 15.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So one of our favorite views is the team view. So I can see where any one faculty is at any given time.
Yeah, and so you are a seasoned Practice Better team plan user, and you have so many different uses for it. And we hear many teams like struggle with like inefficiencies due to redundant work in a team structure. Can you tell me more about the tech tools that you use to streamline processes from your team? So Practice Better, one part of it, and anything else you've got going on.
Yes, we only have 40 some minutes together. And so yes, there are lots of other tech tools I can talk about, but I really just want to talk about, for the most part, Practice
I
Better
mean, I'd love
because
that. That sounds
because so
great.
much of what we do is within the system. And Zapier is a great tool if you have other tools but still need to communicate with Practice Better. So I'll speak from the Nutrition Hive perspective of where we do medical nutrition therapy. So practitioners working with clients directly, we leverage the protocol section. We probably have over 150 protocols that our team has built, and the protocols probably span three topics. One is any condition specific. So our particular team does medical nutrition therapy. So that means that we can work with clients diagnosed with high blood sugar, as an example. And so we have very specific food recommendations, lifestyle interventions, as well as the supplements that we would recommend. And we think about supplements, anyone who's willing to take a pill versus some people only like powders or gummies or liquids. So we have those options included as well. So when we, as a clinician, have a client with high glucose level or higher A1C, and we're working to manage it down, we don't have to go back and look at the current research. All of that research has already been captured in it for us and is a very simple, easy to use tool. So we use protocols for condition specific information. We also use protocols to develop like meals. We use That Clean Life still, which is a great integration with Practice Better. So just the other day, I had a client, she's a teacher. She's looking for shelf stable snacks for when she's done with her kids teaching at like 3 o'clock, but isn't going home yet. And so she doesn't have quick and easy access to the teacher's lounge. So there's a protocol in there that's around shelf stable snacks. And so I don't have to recreate it. She can pick and choose which things she likes the best. And the other way that we use protocols are for some counseling techniques. And this is really helpful, especially if you're helping move a client from pre-contemplation phase. Maybe there are specific tools or counseling techniques or exercises that you can do with that client. And again, they're all right there at the fingertips of our clinicians to pull down. And whether or not they even share them directly with the client in every instance, they can also be used as a tool for the clinician to help navigate the situation.
And so is it you creating all the protocols, or are you encouraging your providers to contribute to your growing bank of shared protocols and resources?
So typically what happens is there are some providers who like to do that work, and there are some providers who don't like to do that work. So if a provider identifies a gap or a hole or something that's maybe not as robust as they need it to be, it's usually that conversation of, is this something you'd like to do, or do we want to give it to someone else? Typically, we've had two people since inception work on protocols, probably 95% of the protocols. So we do have a little bit of flexibility, but clinicians are not creating their own until they're talking to one of the leads to determine how we're going to advance that.
So you use your protocols too. Why is there a focus on that? Does it improve provider efficiency or any what does it do there in terms of improving the clients' lives too?
Yeah, so I find that a lot of clinicians like to have a niche. So that's good. If you have a niche, you probably know what you need to do inside and out. You don't need to look at a protocol. It's there. I specialize in women's health. So I do a lot of hormone stuff. I do a lot of thyroid stuff. I do a lot of heart health stuff. And I do a lot of GI stuff. But let's say someone comes to me in addition to all of those things, and they have something else that I'm not as familiar with. I now, as a clinician, don't have to spend hours getting familiar with it. It's all right there. We even in our medical condition protocols, we do a little bit of a backgrounder. We're obviously not doctors, but if there's conventional allopathic testing that typically is included in coming to this diagnosis, or typical medications that are used in treatment of this condition, those types of things are also referenced for me. So instead of me having to find like my grad school textbook or go to the PubMed and search and read through 100 articles, I've got the cheat sheet right there.
I love that so much. And when I think of those protocols and your team structure and you working so efficiently together, I think of it's reducing your workload as a team. And these kind of workload fluctuations can be really challenging, especially in a practice with seasonal demand. So have you like developed like a system to balance intakes and follow-ups across your team and that sort of client care?
Yes. So is it always to perfection? No, but we do have a system. And what we've been able to do, Nutrition Hive has first started in 2021, and it was built on like the combination of my private practice plus the private practices of two of my other co-owners. So, and we've all been in practice for 7 or 8 years prior to that. So we had a pretty good sense of what does our referral system yield? How many client sessions on average are our clients needing? So we had some good sense coming into starting this practice. It was a blessing. But now how we manage that ebb and flow is we've got lots of data. I can tell you when our slow months are. I can tell you when our peak months are. That allows clinicians to be taking vacations if their schedule is flexible accordingly. But then the other big thing that we do is we run a monthly conversation. We call it the retention conversation, but it's more than that. We do have based on session history and next session schedules, we have a client coordinator who's an Excel wizard and does a little bit more finagling, and it allows us to see which client is how many sessions that they have had to date and if they're scheduled again. And that allows, I'm usually involved in that conversation because then I can sit with the client coordinator and the clinician to better understand, like, what's the rhythm of this client? Are you seeing them weekly? Are they soon going to be ready to offboard? Do you think we're going to see them once a quarter? Like, just, are they going to be moving from 1 hour sessions to half an hour sessions? So it gives us a little bit of a chance to forecast as well as what the next several weeks and months are going to look like, so that we know, oh gosh, I'm going to have 5 clients off board on maybe they've been with a clinician for 12 months and they're finally ready to offboard. I have 5 offboarding probably next month. That means that clinician is probably going to be able to take on a few more new intakes than originally were scheduled. So looking at that retention tracker and forecasting conversation allows us to help manage some of that uneven workload.
Okay. And then do you pull that data from Practice Better, or how are you like
from Practice Better? Yeah.
Okay. So that reporting and that data analysis piece is super important, and playing that consistency. Can you walk us through how you like have structured any like standards of practice that you've got within Practice Better to ensure like a smooth transition even between practitioners, of say like one of you is away or something?
Right, which can happen. So yeah, a couple of thoughts come to mind. So all of the intake paperwork is the same. All of our SOAP noting processes are the same. Clinicians are trained to do similar in style protocols. So in addition, there are other places in the way we take notes. We use PES statements as an example. It's very easy for me to see what is going on with that client if I'm looking at that assessment statement. So yes, we have cancellation policies are the same. The way we document cancellations are the same. So we are very easily able to pop open a client's note and see what's been going on, where they are, what's planned for them in the future. So if, as an example, we've had so much, right? Someone experiences a family emergency and needs to be away for a few weeks. That's very easy then for us to contact that client and say, hey, this is the situation. Liz isn't going to be available for a few weeks. Would you like to spend some time with a different provider. And, when we're calling that person, we've looked at their notes. We're already thinking in our head who would be a good fit for them. And then maybe it's even just something around providing care and pulling up that clean life and helping identify a new few recipes for that person. So there's some continuity of care. The client doesn't feel like, wait, what's happening to me? But we're also not overstepping into the clinician's world, so to speak. We could if we needed to. If someone decides to leave the company, as an example, that's happened one time in 4 years, we were able to very quickly pivot and get those clients the care they needed with a different clinician.
That is so important, like navigating those unforeseen challenges. I remember talking to one of your team members, and I think it was last summer, and we had like the wildfires. There were like vacations, again, like you said, personal emergencies. And it sounds like these systems like help to keep your team staying agile in times of like crises. And then you mentioned using like meal planning as a tool to help with continuity of care. Tell me more about that of like with multiple providers to see the same client, where does nutrition planning fall into that?
Yeah, I think every clinician has a slightly different preference for doing that. My recommendation is to do it in session with a client because I don't know if a client likes tahini. Right. I'm never going to possibly get to that level of nuance. And frankly, most of us, the way we're so accustomed to processing information is in imagery. And so if you were to, as an example, pull up that Clean Life integration through Practice Better, share screen, and I'm just making this up because this is what I came to mind is maybe they really are interested in learning how to make smoothies. So you type in the keywords to get you some smoothie recipes, and now they're seeing the pictures and they're reading the headlines very quickly. They're scanning and they go, oh, that blackberry lime mint thing sounds good. And then I click on it and they go, oh my God, that's 12 ingredients. No, right. And then we can go to the next one. And so we're very easily, quickly able to identify a handful of ideas for their meals and their snacks. We don't necessarily do menu planning where eat this for breakfast, eat this for lunch, eat that for dinner, but very much like how might you be inspired to, maybe they're working on cooking a little more. Maybe they're simply working on feeding themselves snacks. So that's usually the way we might do that in session.
I love that. And like using that Practice Better, that Clean Life integration, like you said, so helpful to just like keep the clients engaged too. And if one of you is away, continuing that care so that things don't fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Other things of like, avoiding client needs or preventing things from slipping through the cracks. I know your team uses Practice Better tasks a lot to manage admin follow-ups. I'd love to hear about that.
Without fail, because family and personal emergencies happen all of the time. And if there is, so it is required that every single client related task must be captured in Practice Better. So if our client coordinator, she's got young kids, what if all of a sudden, like everyone in her family has the GI bug? She's not showing up for work today or tomorrow, right? But someone needs to be able to step in and see what's urgent, what needs to be attended to. And so everything that is client related has to be within Practice Better. There are no paper notes about clients lying around your house. This is something else. We don't allow that. And even in the clinician's incubator platform as well, we do use Slack a tiny bit to shorthand some things, but it's a redundancy. Everything is still managed the way we need to be managed within clinician's incubator, Practice Better platform. So again, if someone needs to leave their home due to a wildfire and, obviously is not going to be working, that's okay. Someone else in the team can step in and without too much of a delay, keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, and for everyone here, Meg Bowman, Liz's teammate, was supposed to be here with today, and there was something came up, fell ill, and so Liz stepped in. So just like the reason we're talking about navigating unforeseen challenges here is also partly because something came up today and Liz was able to step in right away. Notes are available, and Liz was briefed very quickly. So funny that we're having this conversation in tandem. I'd love to hear as well about, managing provider burnout, because that's something that teams are like solo practitioners trying to scale are talking about, but burnout is also a major concern in healthcare. So what led you to integrate coaching methodologies into your provider training?
Yeah. So the burnout is such a real thing. The majority of the people that work with us, not our clients in Nutrition Hive, but either come to us for CNS supervision, are CNS candidates, so they have a master's degree in nutrition, or in our health coaching business, they are licensed or to be licensed providers. So also CNSs, RDs, licensed social workers, PsyDs, people like this. And so what we see time and time and time again is clinicians working harder than a client. And that is one recipe for burnout. Or we might also see people who are in pre-contemplation phase. So someone said, well, my doctor said I need to be here. And they're not completely bought in. And so it's easier to work with someone who's bought in. But, when all of a sudden someone is like, well, I'm supposed to be here for 6 sessions per whatever doctor's orders, helping move them in a way where it doesn't just feel like you're telling them what to do, because telling someone what to do is really exhausting and tiring and doesn't make it any better for the client, and frankly runs a huge risk of shame and blame and guilt. So instead, how can we help our clinicians help clients move through out of whatever stage they're into the next one? How do we help our clinicians find tools that engage their clients so that the client is coming up with the idea? So sure, a client might be underhydrated, but I don't know if that client likes ice water, hot water, herbal tea. Are they a teacher? Do they work in an ER? Are they a nurse in an ER and they can't literally use a bathroom, on a regular basis? Like, I don't know any of those things yet. And so working with the client to help figure out, hey, I'm curious if hydration status might affect like your energy level. We can then talk about it, think about it, and then brainstorm things to try. And that coaching is that strategy versus, in school, we're just taught someone needs to drink whatever, half their body weight in water, whatever anyone's doing. So that's a key piece in why we launched the coaching component, is to reduce that burnout.
And so you've got your nested health coaching certification. It's helped these providers with burnout. And how has it also helped them stay engaged and supported in their work?
Yeah, well, I think, the nested process alone, like anyone who's ever got, like all of your listeners, we've gone through our own journey to get to where we are as a healthcare provider. And as you go through the nested journey as well, you're going to start to have self-reflections. It's a natural part of learning. And so even by going through this 12-week journey, thinking that this is going to help you as a clinician, frankly, it also helps you as a person. And so that level of support is important. And it starts to shift the focus away. A lot of times people, before they join Nested, feel like they might have a little imposter syndrome. And usually that's not what's going on. It's usually around rebalancing. Gets a little complicated. I'll be brief. It's really about rebalancing or equalizing what the client values is now have to be lined up and aligned to what you value. And usually there's a disconnect. And through coaching, it helps us get that clinician oriented to what the client actually values, which might be different than what they think. And so it feels, as a result, their entire way that they can work with clients shifts. And that is supportive of them because they no longer feel like they're the ones like doing all the work, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you track provider well-being in any way, like with your providers and your team, or like what signs do you look for that indicate that someone may need additional support?
Yeah, we're so fortunate because the majority of our providers and faculty have been with us for quite a long time. So it does not take much for me to get on even a phone call. I don't even have to see them visually, and I can hear their voice and I know something is up. So we are very fortunate in that. Other times we try very hard to create a kind and compassionate environment as leaders of these business units. And so we do believe that that's reflected in our clinicians and faculty, because there will be tears when something is not right. The other thing that we do at that retention meeting that I mentioned earlier is it gives the clinician a chance to also say, this client is really tough. We also have weekly clinical rounds where, again, we can talk about some of those tougher clients or help. Sometimes it's just I need to express this. And other times we got to problem solve. Okay, are there other counseling skills? Remember when you learned this? Let's implement that. So we've got the retention meeting on a monthly basis. We've got weekly grand rounds. We've got, every clinician meets with me on a monthly basis as well, just to talk about anything like, oh, do you have vacations planned coming up? Like, how's it going? Just kind of general check-in HR type of stuff. And then we also have at the end of every initial consultation, the clinician provides in Practice Better Task, provides a summary back to the client coordinator of like, how did this session go, and answers a couple of key questions. So again, because a lot of the client burnout might come from some challenging situations with clients, and usually experienced clinicians start to feel this pretty early on in your relationship with a new client. So it gives the clinician a chance to express to the client coordinator possible concerns or issues that they have coming up.
Okay, this was so helpful. And I think you've really got a system like down pat of like how your team is structured and who reports to who. How did you like create that team structure and this like all of these like systems in place within your team, and then taking that over to the software and to Practice Better to implement?
Yeah. And this is where it's been a blessing, because I am one of the 3 co-founders of these businesses. And so if you're in private practice as a solo entrepreneur looking to scale, you may not be able to, you may not be blessed with what I'm about to say. And that is my strengths are very different than my other 2 co-owners. And my desires and my preferences for work are different. So it happened, and we literally have the spreadsheet from when we first started the company. Because I've worked in big, massive global organizations prior to this career shift. And so you list out all the things that you have to do, like culture, HR, administrative, payroll, legal, operations, all of the performance management, clinical director, education, all the things. And Meg Allison and I kind of just went through the list, and it was a very natural, like, oh, I really like that, and I think I'm good at that. Oh, I really like that, and I'm good at that. And so it's been natural how to divide the work among us as co-owners. And then I've been able to just sort of operate the HR components as I feel fit, because I've done similar things in other parts of the organization. If you're a solo entrepreneur, this is where I would highly recommend figuring out to outsource what you don't like. So if you really don't like bookkeeping, outsource it. If you really struggle with legal stuff, find a lawyer that specializes in healthcare that is not overly priced, that you can afford, and put them on retainer. So that's what I would say, is find the things that you like to do and recognize what your things are that I don't even like the word weaknesses, things that you don't have experience in, or that you don't like, or that just don't ever get done, and outsource those.
That's so helpful. It's so lovely that between the 3 of you, you could find like which tasks bring you joy, and then split that pretty evenly, and now run 3 successful business units. That's fantastic. I want to kind of I'm still like thinking about those reports, and thinking about like how you've really like taken those reports into help building the system to keep operations running smoothly. Can you share an example of how Practice Better reports have been a game changer in keeping operations running smoothly in some of those like difficult times?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, so in full transparency, we pay regardless of what business unit you're in, we pay per client or student facing hour. So payroll gets run. We have some other calculations that we do for administrative time and things like that. But generally speaking, I am running biweekly reports on how many client-facing hours that they have, so that I know how to pay payroll. Other organizations would pay a percentage of the incoming revenue, but we've been in this business long enough. We do a whole separate calculation to understand what is our average pay rate across all of our different income streams, so that we know what that pay rate needs to be per hour, client-facing hour per clinician. So I don't have to do pay based on this insurance company paid me $99.17 and they get an X percentage, or this person was cash pay and they're going to get X percentage. So just knowing how many client-facing hours they have is really important. I also look at the cancellation reports, and we look at those numbers. One of my clinicians really specializes in teenagers, so her cancellation rate is very high. Not surprisingly, it's over 30%. And what that means is and it's been this way for her whole time. She's been with us since day one. So what this means is she's targeting, I'm just making this up simply, to work 20 client-facing hours a week. If she has a cancellation rate of 30%, she actually needs to book like 26 client hours per week, assuming that 30% are going to cancel, so that she can actually meet her target of 20 hours a week. So we're looking at cancellation rates on a regular basis. There's two that come to mind that I'm constantly in there. We look at unsigned reports. Sometimes, let's be real, it's Friday at 5:00, you finish your last client and you're like, bye computer, see you later, weekend's here. And like by Monday, you forgot that you didn't sign that report. So we can run reports and see if there's anything outstanding as well.
I love that. Do you mind if we actually get into some questions from the audience, if that's okay with you? Yeah. We have a question from Pam is, how do you find quality outsourcing? I've heard many stories of people being taken advantage of and would love to get a primer on how to find, vet, and price point accordingly.
Yes. I think if you are not connected within your profession to other people, I'd highly recommend figuring out how to get connected. So whether that's through a social media group, that's your school alumna, that's through programs like Practice Better, people who listen to the same podcasts as you, there's lots of resources. Kind of look to find one where you feel at home. You could create your own mastermind group if you needed to or wanted to. It takes some upfront work, but I would recommend that having a group like that is going to help you feel less isolated and also allow you to kind of talk through, I have a great referral for a bookkeeper. They charge this much for my business. Maybe you could call and do a session with them. So that might be helpful. Number two, always trust your gut. If you think it's too good to be true, it is. There are people charging ginormous prices for different programming and different things. And I've spent a lot of money doing it and I regret it most of the time. So I would say if this is your first entry into outsourcing, go small. Figure out what they can do to get the ship righted. And then if you're feeling like it's not enough, maybe you will have to do more outsourcing. Most people will be willing to do a discovery call with you. Do the discovery call with you. You want a contract. You want to take the time to read it. Sometimes, find the time where you're not stressed out and thinking about 700 million other things. For me, that might be a Saturday morning when everything is quiet and I'm not trying to do 700 other things. I can really read through that contract. I'm looking for service level agreements. I'm looking to understand what if I'm not satisfied. I'm looking to understand the terms. And you don't know what you don't know. We're all going to make mistakes as we try and find a provider, but just sort of think through, what are you looking for? What might go wrong? Those are also good questions to ask the provider on a discovery call. Have clients ever terminated with you? What are the biggest pitfalls that you see with new clients? Like, you can ask the provider to give you some of their thoughts. And a good provider who's going to be good at their job is going to tell you some information. They're not going to hold everything close to their chest, because even if they tell you some ideas, you're not going to know how to implement them. And they know that. So you want to build comfort with providers, and then you got to go for it. That's my non-science answer.
No, that's so helpful. We touched on some of the challenges in running a team practice, eliminating duplicate tasks, dealing with workload distribution, burnout, and unforeseen challenges. Are there any other challenges that you've experienced over the years of working with your team that we didn't touch on, that you would like want to give a warning to our solo practitioners looking to scale to having a team practice?
Yeah. Thanks. I think the one thing that I mentioned is you're going to be good at some things and you're not going to be good at things. You're going to like things, you're not going to like things. So just get really clear on that. If you don't like coaching people, team practice is not for you. Because they will always need more time and attention than what you think, which is not a bad thing. It's a really lovely thing. I am so proud at night to know that we are able to help families feed themselves by giving them jobs in the nutrition field. Like that brings me such joy. But really knowing what you like and knowing what you're good at. And team members need so much more of your time and attention. And what I see time and time again, and I'm absolutely guilty of this, and have to watch it, is I can't let my stress or anything else that's going on here, I can't let that creep into when I'm trying to talk and work with a client or a clinician. It's not fair to them. So really having good personal boundaries as well. Not that you always have to have a fake face on, but your crisis, don't let it become their crisis. Those are some of my thoughts.
And questions from Diana is, do your team members report to you or are they freelance?
Oh, they are freelance. We are almost exclusively all 1099s.
That's and is there a reason you've chosen that model or?
Yes, because we originally did it as W-2s, and we decided after several years that for the sake of the business and for the sake of the clinician, it actually was better to move them to a 1099 model, because what had happened in a W-2 model, we operated under a blended rate. So typically, for anyone who's unfamiliar with, like, if you were to hire someone, typically there is a fee that you would pay, right? You would pay a 1099, which is a contractor, X percentage of your income. So let's say you make $100 for a session and you hire someone to do that work. Let's say you're going to pay him 50 or 60%. So you're going to pay him $50 or $60. That would be a normal incoming new price. Once you're well established, you might get a little higher than that. But in W-2, I also have, which is an employee status, you're going to get vacation days. You are going to get paid for I don't know, so many other things. I am going to pay your payroll taxes. And so it's usually about a third of the incoming dollar amount. That would be about normal. So if it's $100 that someone is pulling in for session, I'm trying to figure out a blended rate, because I might be needing to pay for them for 40 hours of work a week, but they're only seeing 20 clients. So how do I do that math, and what else am I asking them to do instead? So we've done it both ways. And I believe, based on conversations, that our contractors are happier at 1099s, and the business is happier at 1099s.
Okay, awesome. Question from Rachel, going back to the protocols. Everyone loves your mention of protocols, and when you kicked us off with that.
Yes.
So no, sorry, did I interrupt?
No, I'm excited to talk more about it because I have more things I need to say.
That's great. Rachel's asking is, you mentioned 3 main categories of protocols, MNT, counts and technique. And what's the third category that your practice uses the most?
Probably food, like the food recipe booklets.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, because I know you've got, even, I'm just kind of looking back on some of the things that I noticed in your practice is you've got like published snippets on drug nutrient interactions, you've got NFPE findings. So how has provider efficiency changed with these? And if you want to share any success stories on how these resources have made an impact, I'd love to hear them.
I would love to share that. And I'm just going to rewind for 1 nanosecond back to the 1099 conversation. One of our co-founders lives in California. So I hear her invisibly in my ear right now. The rules and employment in California is very, 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 very different. So I cannot speak to California. That may not be appropriate to do 1099s anymore. I'm not up to speed on that. So I just wanted to put that in there. Okay, so yes, we do snippets for the top 100 commonly prescribed medications in the US. And we also do snippets on NFPE. And this is such a huge time savings because, yes, there are lots of people on medication. And so it allows you to see what are the contraindications. I'll remember one time I had a client on allergy medicine, and she was on several different allergy medicines. For those of you who take allergy medicine during peak hay fever season, you might have something for a spray for your nose and something for night and something for day. And I really wanted to get her this is a little nuance, but I wanted to get her a multivitamin that also had some other ingredients in it. And I didn't realize how many contraindications there were with allergy medicines, but there it was right there in front of me. And like, I think it was lion's mane or something that I couldn't recommend to this client. So not having to research everything individually and just, type in, I don't have to type in the name of the prescription medication. It comes over from their intake form, is mapped to their note, shows up. Oh, we do mapping. Yep. And then you just start to type the snippet of Allegra and it pops up, hit enter, there it is. And I can scan everything real fast against the possible recommendation I'm making. And NFPEs work the same way. So NFPE stands for Nutrition Focused Physical Exam, very common to do in person. Most of my work is virtual now, but I can still do a lot of it in video. And so something simple, it might be like, oh, they report white spots on their nails. Well, maybe I'm not remembering everything, but I can just type in the snippet as we have it described for nails, and they'll see that it's white. They pick that one, and we're like, oh, maybe we should look at zinc-rich foods. So that's how we use those.
That's brilliant. You use Practice Better in so many ways, I think, in your practice, it sounds like, and in your business units. In the last couple of minutes, I want to learn about, have you always used Practice Better? Did you migrate from a different EHR?
So when Practice Better in 2019 or 2020 launched groups, a team page, whatever year that was, we had been with our business that was for supervision. We needed basically a student management system, but we didn't want it to feel like graduate school all over again. And we don't have a budget to do a student management system that a school would do. So as soon as Practice Better announced their Teams platform for Practice Better, I had already been using Practice Better in my private practice, which was the third EMR that I had been using. So I switched to Practice Better personally in 2020. And then, so it must have been 2020 when you announced Teams. And so after having just like 5 or 6 months of experience with Practice Better at an individual practitioner level, when you all announced that you had Teams, I was convinced that this would be the right candidate management system or student management system that we needed. And we have absolutely learned how to hack Practice Better in all the ways that we've needed to be a student management system. And then, yes, when we started Nutrition Hive in 2021, it was a very obvious choice to also do the team platform with Practice Better because 2 out of the 3 owners had been using Practice Better for years and years. Meg is one of your original users from way back when.
Oh, that's such a beautiful, seamless transition. Do you have any advice for folks who are hesitant to switch to Practice Better from a different EHR? Any like initial struggles that you experienced when you started using it as a solo or as a team?
I think the first time you set up any EMR for the first time is the hardest time to do it. Yes. Once you figured out, like generally speaking, how an EMR works, then you're good. So I converted my EMR, literally, it was like on a Saturday night, and it took me like 6 hours, and I had hundreds and hundreds of records, and it was so easy to do. If you can speak, because I don't know all the details. I think that there might be different tools available, and based on the level of platform in Practice Better that you purchase, you have different functionality, but I know that it used to be called like the Wizard or something like that. The videos that Practice Better has to get you started step by step by step, just follow them. Don't do anything else but follow them. And the help feature in Practice Better is the best I've ever seen. So if you have a question, go to the help, type it in, and look for it. I'm usually a person that's like, their help sucks, I'm just going to call or I'm going to send an email. For Practice Better, you are going to find the answer 90% of the time, probably 99% of the time on your own. Typically, when we message the help desk, it's more about like, hey, so we have this really nuanced hack that we've got to figure out. Can you help us?
I love that. Thank you so much, Liz, for being here with us today. We're so appreciative of your time. And shout out to anyone, too. We have a migration service now that can easily move you to Practice Better if you're a part of a team. So we've got that all in place. But thank you again, Liz. It was so lovely having you chat with us today.
Thank you so much. It was so good to be here. Happy rest of afternoons. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.